Hi, in this video, we're going to take a look at the golden growth model. So from the previous video, we have discussed the dividend discount model, or DDM here, which states that the value of a stock or the price of a stock is almost entirely dependent on its future dividend. And we just need to discount the dividend at the appropriate discount rate, which is the expected return on the stock or the cost of capital or the required return on the capital here. So what if the dividend is going to grow at a constant rate of G here? So let's draw this on a timeline here. So at the end of year one, I'm going to get D1 here. So at year two, I'm going to get D1 times 1 plus G. And here, third year, the dividend is going to be D1 times 1 plus G to the power of 2. Okay, so similarly, we can discount all those dividends back to the present, and we will use that to calculate the price. And this should be very familiar, and it's basically the perpetuity with a constant growth. So we can simplify this, or we can just express that as D1 over 1 plus R, and then D1 1 plus G over 1 plus R to the power of 2, and then D1 1 plus G to the power of 2, and 1 plus R to the power of 3. Okay, and all the way to D1 1 plus G to the power of T minus 1, and then 1 plus R to the power of T. Okay, so this is how we calculate the price, and as we have seen before from the perpetuity with growth, this should reduce, or to be simplified into P0, which is the current price of the stock, is simply D1 over R minus G here. Okay, so we for simplicity or for clarity, we can write this notation here, which is P0 and D1 here. And you can change this into any other combination. For example, if you want to know the price of the stock in certain years, so let's say P4, then you simply need to use D5 here. So always remember, we need the future cash flow, not the current cash flow, to be discounted, right? So if anything is happening right now, we don't discount it, right? So as you can see, for us to use this equation here, there are certain assumptions to be met. Okay, so first, the constant return on equity and the constant growth, and to add up onto that, we still need one more condition. That is, R needs to be greater than G here. Okay, so R here needs to be greater than G. So the discount rate must be greater than the growth rate, which we have seen before during the session on the perpetuity with growth. So in this case, we have a very intuitive understanding or explanation for this. So the discount rate, or the required return, it must be higher than the growth rate so that the price could converge. Otherwise, if the company is growing so fast that the discount rate is not catching up with the growth, then you cannot put a price on it, because this growth will grow into infinity. So there is no price on such stocks, okay, on such kind of stock. But is it always the case that we have a required return on stock that is greater than the growth rate? It is not. Okay, so we could allow for the scenario of multiple growth rate. So it's very plausible for a company to have multiple growth rates. So for example, if it's a small company, just a startup, just heading out, so it could experience a very high growth rate. And then after it has matured or has expanded, then the growth rate would reduce. So you have different periods for multiple growth rate. So what should we do if we encounter multiple growth rates? So there are several things we can do. So if these high growth rates happened during the early stages of this company, okay, so let's, for example, for the first 3 years, the growth rate is very high and is much greater than the discount rate. We don't have to use this, okay? We don't have to use the equation, because we cannot use that. We can just simply plug in the numbers with the simple calculations here. And until the growth rate is smaller than the required return, then we can use the formula here. Okay, so for example, if the first 3 years, in this case, we have a very high growth rate, then we are just going to calculate this way. But starting from year 3, we can calculate the value for this stock using the Gordon growth model. But remember, if you want to calculate the price in the future using a Gordon growth model, you'll need to discount it backwards by how many periods you have in the early stages. Okay, so in this case, I have 3 years of early stages. Then if I calculate P3 here, so if I have P3, that is going to be D4 divided by R minus G. So I don't just need P3 here, right? I still need P0. So I have to discount this thing back for 3 periods and then add up the dividends value for the first 3 years, discount it back to the present. That's going to be my price at the present. Okay, so we will use an example in the future videos to illustrate how to calculate the price of a stock with multiple growth rate, and I'll see you there.